Paramedics were called after Calhoun had complained that she had difficulty breathing, but she did not require hospitalization.
Since prisons are made to contain some of the wildest people in the world, they are naturally quite intriguing places.
In order to escape the sheriff's office, he took his chances by jumping out of a 2-story window.
Today, we bring you 30 videos showing some of the craziest prison moments ever captured on camera. Bulldozer smashes a prison wall. The essence of prison walls is to keep the prisoners from escaping. Watch what happens once a bulldozer smashes one of these walls. A prison facility in Copenhagen had quite a peculiar situation at their hands once this happened. Soon after the impact broke through the wall, those on the inside took this as a chance. This is how 12 prisoners managed to escape. Among these, there were even those who were imprisoned for murder charges. Imagine how surreal all of this looked to a prison guard who was on duty. Everything was so unpredictable that he was left with no choice but to stare at the caterpillar, probably thinking to himself, "This shouldn't be happening." Russian prison escapee. Look at this scene of a Russian prisoner who had quite a bold and unbelievable escape plan. He noticed that the meal window may be just wide enough for him to slide through. However, since this would be tough to pull off with his clothes on, he got rid of it all. As he is pushing his body through the tiny hole in the wall, the other prisoners must be as surprised as we are. The inmate was quite persistent in his intention and managed actually to squeeze himself out of the meal window. A masked guy tries to escape prison. The next case will show you how determined people can sometimes be when attempting to trick the law. The big plan here was that, since his daughter visited him often in prison, he would get dressed up as her, even putting on quite a believable mask to look like her. During one of her visits, he jumped at the opportunity to give this plan a shot. The person with the long hair that we see here is actually the man trying to convince everyone it is just his daughter checking out. All the while, she must be sitting somewhere in a visit area and expecting to hear how the plan went. Well, whatever she expected, the news that she got was that her father couldn't mimic her well enough, and the police saw through his disguises in under a minute. Prisoner drives a bus through the gate. Prisoners may use any opportunity to try and regain their freedom. This one had a brilliant plan and waited for the perfect moment to execute it. The idea is quite simple. Get in a vehicle and drive through any obstacles that stand between you and the outside world. As soon as he realizes the moment has come, the guy sneaks behind everyone's backs, and once he finds himself behind the wheel, he drives through the garage doors. The cops are left with a lesson that sometimes the obviousness and the simplicity of an escape attempt is what does it. Hi, officer. Bye, officer. Keep it simple was what this guy must have thought. As soon as he was left in a room by himself, it probably took him just a single glance to come up with an escape plan. Moments after hearing the door closing behind him, he jumps through the open window and sprints out of there, leaving the cop to wonder how they could have been tricked so hilariously. Watch out for the guards. The treatment of inmates inside a prison doesn't always have to be a fair one. Due to an investigation regarding car theft, this woman was caught and put in a cell. Cops described her behavior as uncooperative and provoking, but wait and see for yourself if she deserved the treatment that she got. She was asked to remove her shoes, and after she kicked them towards the cell doors, the cop was triggered immediately. He jumps at the woman and pushes her against the wall. We can even realize from the other officer's reaction that this was uncalled for. Before he was stopped, this guy managed to throw the woman on the ground, pulling her by the hair. A cell camera caught dangerous punches and kicks, and the guy was held responsible for his unfair actions. El Chapo Escape. You don't have to be too familiar with prisons to have heard about El Chapo. Moments before he pulls off what some call a legendary escape, we see him walking back and forth through his cell, Before we see him vanishing right in front of our eyes, he gets close to the shower and seems to be doing something below it. We later discover that he was probably prying open the entrance to a hidden tunnel he used to escape. A window of opportunity. This group of prisoners was waiting to see how their future would unfold before a judge when one of them decided not to have it today. As the processing is going on in the back, he gets up and after briefly checking out the height, decides it is worth the risk. The guy flung himself from high up, almost falling to his death. After barely surviving the fall, the prisoner is apprehended swiftly by a nearby police officer. A zombie apocalypse. Yes, we shouldn't be surprised that prisoners can be found in a prison yard, but should they really be coming from an opening in the ground? Well, while it may seem like a zombie apocalypse, it is actually a group of prisoners that found their way towards the prison yard through underground tunnels. One by one, we see them slowly climbing out of the hole in the ground and thinking about their next moves in this escape attempt. The next step of their plan involved relying on the surroundings to provide an answer, since immediately after they jump out of the ground, they start pulling off ropes that are hanging around. When prisoners take over. The next case is quite a disturbing one, as it shows what happens when prisoners are allowed to seize control of the prison. Namely, these two prisoners managed to barricade themselves inside a segregated area and held other prisoners hostage. At one point, things even escalated, and some prisoners ended up being injured, and all that the guards could do was observe what was happening through the impenetrable glass. After some back and forth, officers managed to get back in control of the cell block, even though prisoners went as far as to spread soap on the floor to make it slippery and remove all the security cameras. A prisoner tries to take a ride in a helicopter. If you're a fan of old action movies, you know most of these can't go by without a helicopter scene and a man hanging from it. This video is quite a wacky one and involves an escape attempt that one couldn't miss. This all happened in a Canadian prison, and it transpired when a helicopter was about to take off. The escapees' plan was to sneak by and grab onto the cords that were hanging from it. Apparently, they wanted to Superman their way out of the prison, and once the helicopter takes off, we see them dangling in the wind quite high up. Prison Slenderman. Unsurprisingly, there are some quite scary and weird people to be found in jail. Well, let us show you one of these that would be tough to simply explain. This bald guy seems to be quite fit and quite bendy. Once he was confined in this small and see-through holding cell, he got creative and tried to get out. He first attempts to actually go through the tiny window on the cell, and once an officer doesn't allow this, he starts exploring the roof of the cell, seeking an opportunity to escape. After he realized that his attempts had drawn too much of the officer's attention, he first acted calm, but as soon as they removed their gaze from the prisoner, he poked through the cell roof and managed to get into the actual ceiling. Cops, however, managed to catch him before he went too far and put him back in the cell. Teamwork for the win. Sometimes prisoners feel that their chances of escaping are better once they have a fellow inmate or two supporting them. Well, these guys joined their hands to try and break the metal prison doors. After some struggle, they actually managed to pry it open and slip out one by one through the small entrance they managed to create. A wall climber. When trying to escape prison, inmates have tested virtually anything. This one decided that climbing may be the best answer. We don't know what his previous job may have been, but he would definitely make a great tree climber. He used the opportunity during some turmoil among prisoners and ran into the yard, where he tried to climb along one of the pillars. Even though his first attempt failed, he didn't give up and went looking for help from other inmates. These guys don't seem to want to give up either, and even try using an improvised rope to climb over the walls. Prison Houdini. Sometimes leaving prisoners without supervision isn't a good idea, even if you literally cuff them to the wall. This woman was arrested under the suspicion that she had committed theft and placed in this holding cell. What you can see on the wall is a sturdy metal ring to which the woman was handcuffed. As you can notice, the woman is even provided with a phone to arrange her business. But while she was thinking about bail, another possibility crossed her mind. The camera in the cell has caught this unbelievable Houdini act as the woman pulls out her ankle from the cuffs in under a minute. A prisoner left hanging. If you're a prisoner, not only guards but also other prisoners can be your enemy. In some prisons, they lack the means to subdue and control the huge number of prisoners that they must hold. These are the scenes that one could stumble upon in such facilities. During this long riot, prisoners hanged this man upside down from his feet. A funny phone call. This crazy escape of a prisoner starts out with a phone call. This inmate, located in a county jail in Arkansas, must have prepared for this escape for quite some time, since being on the phone was just a cover-up of his intention to flee. Using this position as a way to observe what's going on, he decides when to start his escape plan. At the best moment, he jumped through a prison window and started running. Cameras filming the entrance of this facility recorded him as he sprints away from imprisonment and towards freedom. A miracle of walking. Law enforcers have learned through time that prisoners may use any occasion as an opportunity to set themselves free. In their attempt to trick the officers, they may even pretend to be ill, injured, or in this case, entirely unable to walk. But once you put them in a situation where just a few quick running steps set them apart from a successful escape, you will see how far they are ready to go. This guy was being taken to a hospital in a wheelchair. The man is facing charges that include burglary, but before being taken to prison, he demanded to go to the hospital since he said that he was injured. Here, we see the amazingly quick change from a patient into a runaway suspect that happens at the courthouse doorstep. The cop doesn't even lose a moment and chases behind the man, all the while calling for backup. Even though the cop didn't manage to get him right away, the escapee was caught soon enough. A prisoner hides his cuffs and leaves the building. The guy in the next video was just found guilty of illegal drug possession. Once the process was done, all that was left to do was to take the man to his cell so his sentence could begin. Something very confusing happens as the officer seems to forget the man. As soon as he passes by, we see this inmate backing away into the courtroom. It seems the fellow is a quick thinker, considering that he takes off his shirt to put it over his handcuffs. After that, he enters a hallway and leaves the recognizable prisoner's shoes behind him before he runs away. Even though this guy miraculously managed to slip through a lot of security, he was caught soon after and brought back to justice. You better count your prisoners. This prison guard was escorting prisoners who were supposed to enter the transportation bus, as we can see. Since this was a simple task, the officer probably didn't expect anything to go wrong, but pay attention to what happened once the guy in the gray shirt decided to make a break for it, even though there was another officer walking right behind him. As the man was passing next to a fence, he quickly slipped by, and even though the officer tried to grab him, he managed to get away. Although both guards immediately start giving chase, the one in the back remembers that the other prisoners may follow the escapee's example if they are not watched carefully. The camera outside the prison caught as the escapee ran across the parking lot in front of it. As we find out later, the man was caught and returned to prison. A prisoner breaks free of handcuffs. Handcuffs are one of the essential tools that cops rely on to keep prisoners at bay. The guy in this video apparently decides to ignore the sturdiness of this tool as he tries to escape. The schemy-looking fella is a murder suspect who was waiting for his questioning to begin. However, it seems this guy wasn't planning to stick around, so he stands up and tries to get free of the cuffs. Even though they don't immediately budge, he uses all his might on them, and after standing up and finding a good lever, he manages to break the handcuffs. After he has broken free of the cuffs, he even acts as if they are still on until the cops pass him by, after which he tries to escape through the ceiling. About 3 days later, he found himself in a similar place again. A hostage situation in prison. Working in prison is definitely one of the most dangerous jobs out there. This is why hostage situations that happen in jails are taken very seriously. This prisoner managed to catch one of the guards, and using a knife, he threatened his life. Right from the beginning, we see the prisoner's dangerous intention as he jumps on a table and places the guard near him. We can notice that the guard's hands are tied behind his back and that he has no means to protect himself. Other prisoners are even moving around as the officer gets dragged across the table. Considering that one of their colleagues' lives was in danger, cops had to act accordingly, and with great force, they quickly defused the situation. All rise and flee as fast as you can. Some prisoners don't see the courtroom as the final destination before they go to jail. Instead, they feel it may be an opportunity that shouldn't be ignored. These guys seem to be some of those people. As they were brought to a court and the processing was about to begin, the prisoners stood up. However, this wasn't to greet the judge, but to attempt an escape. Kudos to the judge, who realizes what's happening quickly. After taking off his robe, he starts chasing the two. Since the whole building is covered by cameras, this escape was well recorded. As we can see, the two have tried to use the fire escape as a way out. However, the judge proves to be up to the task and grabs one of them right at the door. The other one also didn't get very far. A stealthy escapee. Sometimes a successful prison escape isn't at all about the skill or the plan. Instead, it could be pure luck supported by some stealthy movement. This woman happened to have discovered that there was an unlocked door, and when this happened in prison, it was definitely treated as an opportunity. The inmate then slowly moves past one of the guards who was using the phone at the moment. She then gets in the back with the officers and hides herself in plain sight. The escapee even finds cover, which helps her stay undetected while another person walks right by. After everyone cleared away, she managed to walk right out of the door. A guy walks out of the police car. Some folks feel that one doesn't even have to get sentenced to start thinking of a plan to escape. This guy was being taken to prison by a police vehicle in Russia when he managed to pry the back door open and slowly walk away as the police van came to a stop in the traffic. The escapee even shows the man who's driving the car behind the police vehicle to keep quiet. But this isn't enough for his escape attempt to be successful, since officers immediately realize what happened and chase after him. Personnel ignores a prisoner's seizure. We can undoubtedly understand that being a prison guard requires you to be quite hardcore. However, it still doesn't mean one should be heartless. This prisoner was left unattended despite experiencing a serious health issue. His seizures and symptoms were interpreted as some convincing acting stunt. However, this wasn't the case at all. The man was truly going through hell and received no help. Unbelievable escape from prison. No matter your circumstances, being agile and flexible could be quite beneficial. This convicted murderer relied on these wits to try and escape prison. What he did was he found a passage whose walls were just close enough for him to fit between when he stretched his body completely. What he then did was push the walls with both his feet and hands. He climbed up into a place that happened to be a blind spot for the prison cameras. Stay perfectly still. These two guys had an idea of how they can regain their freedom. While they were probably trusted with the duty of arranging trash bins, they seized this opportunity. By jumping into trash bins and sitting perfectly still within them, these two waited until they were essentially forgotten. Once they have realized that everyone has left the place where the trash bins are held, they jump out of them and keep going at it. A casual chitchat between an escapee and a cop. Even if a prisoner manages to escape, it usually doesn't take long before law enforcers realize that every prisoner isn't accounted for, and the search begins. No matter how complex and precise the escape plan is, prisoners can't have much of an idea of what awaits them once they're past the gates. What this escapee stumbled upon was a police officer who was actually looking for him. At that moment, the prisoner has already managed to discard any clothes that could prove that he is an escaped prisoner, and what he does next is almost unbelievable. Coming up with quite a complex story, he manages to convince the cop over the course of about 10 minutes that he is actually a jogger who lives nearby. This explanation also helps him get out of the pinch when he is asked for ID or anything else. He simply explained that since his apartment is nearby, he didn't feel the need to sweat on his things. Over the rooftop. As our final case begins, what we may notice is a strange movement atop this institution's rooftop. These prisoners have attempted to escape and cut their sentences short by using the unexpected route that includes going over rooftops. One by one, they jump from one roof to another, and once they find one low enough, they are planning to jump to the ground and proceed to escape on foot. However, police officers realized that something was going on, and they alerted everyone about an ongoing escape attempt. Soon enough, the escapees are apprehended. That was our final case. Thank you for watching. We hope you have enjoyed this list of some of the craziest prison moments ever caught on camera.